Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, What is Program Management? Presented by the Managing Director at Velipi, Seamus Collins. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'll be assisting and moderating our session today. We are in Zoom for today's webinar, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you in an email after the webinar. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use that chat or the Q&A option for a short Q&A after the presentation. Educate 360 is so excited to present this webinar today. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Seamus.
Okay, thank you, Mariella. Thank you for coming along today. And if you're watching this recording after, you're welcome to send me questions or put them on the chat there for Mariella to forward them to me as well. But what I want to do is today to talk to you about program management. And I've delivered this course so many times in program management, and I've also done the PgMP certification. So hopefully I know a lot about this topic. So let me make a start. Look, I want to cover off a few key things with you, and they're on the screen there. Really, what is program management? And then a lot of people here might have done the PMP, and they might be thinking, what is PGMP certification? And I'd just like to talk you through that and make sure we're all clear on what's involved, and maybe why would you want it, and again, then explain the process to you. And as I said, we're part of the Educate 360 family. So if any of you have done the PMP with PMA before, or ourselves at Velipi, you'll know it's a very supported way of achieving the result. Okay. So let me make a start. Is there some question already? Okay, no, that's okay. So I'll start with this, the definition of a program, because that's where a lot of people actually struggle at the start of, they often maybe have the title of program manager, but a program is a group of related projects. And what I mean by this, the key word in this sentence is this word benefit. And, the projects are related in a way that if one of the projects doesn't deliver, we don't get all the benefit. And the example I would often use in class maybe is if we have a strategic objective to get, electric cars on the road, you might say, well, we need to build the cars, we need charging points, stations, and we need some sort of benefit in kind or tax break from the government to encourage people. And they're three projects. But if one of them doesn't happen, maybe the results won't happen. We won't get the benefit we were expecting. So if I get the cars and the government tax break, but I don't have charging stations, people are going to say, I won't buy one. If I have the car and I've got the stations, but I've no tax break, people say, what's the incentive? So again, it's this idea of benefit. And very often we'll see that there are maybe two types of programs, even when we look at these. There are programs that we start off with a strategic objective and we design a program of work to bring up to achieve that. But there's also the concept of an emergent program. And an emergent program is where you'd look at your overall number of projects you currently have in your portfolio and actually say, actually, there's 3 or 4 of those there. They all need to succeed. We shouldn't be managing them as individual things. They all need to happen if we're going to get the result here. So again, that concept of an emergent program is very important. Very often people go back from here and say, actually, there is a few things there we could glue together. Now, if you just have projects that are related in relation to the resource pool they pull from, they're just projects within a portfolio. That's not what a program is. Okay, so it's this idea of obtaining benefits that's not available if you manage them individually. That's the key definition from the PMI. And then you can see the definition of program management, very much aligned with the definition of a project management. Again, there's tools, there's skills, etc., to get the program done. And the big mistake many of us make, I think, is we go from project to program management, but we try and manage the program using project management tools. And that's not, there is some commonality, but it's a different space. Okay, so if you're trying to manage a program with project management tools, that's not going to work. We need to lift up our mindset. And even one simple example, just to get you thinking about that, is if you've got a schedule in your project and you've got multiple schedules with thousands of lines in any one of them, that's great. You're interested in critical paths and everything like this. But at a program manager, my senior managers, they want to see a roadmap. So a schedule is to a project what a roadmap is to a program. So my boss might want to see 10, 11 line items to show when the benefits are being realized. He or she does not want to see 20,000 line Gantt charts. Okay, I need them definitely to run the projects within my program, but that they're project management tools. Now, we may have a master schedule in a program, and again, that's probably a bit behind the scenes, but I have a program roadmap for my senior stakeholders. Okay, so start to think like that. The other thing as well is in a program, you might have a program risk register. In project management, we have the idea from PMI of we can avoid, transfer, mitigate, or accept the risk. And the last one is we can escalate. And when escalation happens here, in this case, it's a case of the project risk maybe could impact another project within the program to derail or benefit. So maybe it's above the pay grade of the person within the project, and it is a program risk. And then those risks only end up in your program risk register. You do not be taking ownership for all the risks from the project managers. You push that stuff down into the projects and leave it there. Your job is to manage program level stuff, roadmaps, program risk registers, program work breakdown structures, program budgets, program quality plans, etc., etc. Okay, so let me go forward from here. The course itself, what are the modules in it? I suppose just at a very high level now. And again, this can be, when people see the first one here, strategy. And again, projects, I suppose, produce deliverables, maybe that bring about some benefit. But when you go up the value chain in your organization, you want to understand the strategy of the organization, and you really want to understand how to make your program deliver that strategy. So an understanding of strategy is a big module in this course. How was strategy formulated? You get into concepts like vision, mission, strategic objectives. We would even include stuff like Porter's 5 forces, pestle analysis, etc., to show how companies formulate strategy. Because you need to be able to understand strategy. And then when your boss says, well, how does your program deliver that for me? Some of us, when we're project managers, the strategy might be so far up the chain, the boss gives you a charter and says, deliver that. But as you go further up, you need to understand the strategic objectives of the company, because if the strategy of the company changes, your program may need to change with it. So in a project, very often change is kept to a minimum and we manage it through change control. In a program, we're looking at changing the program over its duration to maximize and optimize the benefit. Okay, so let's say I started off a program with 3-4 component projects in it. But let's then, for example, say there's some directive on, I don't know, GDPR or an FDA guidance or something else has happened or the company has bought some other company. Now you might need new components. So you're constantly morphing the program into delivering benefits for the organization. So the concept of strategic alignment and all this is so, so important at a program level. The second module of the course is a module on benefits management. And we saw the definition of program. The big word I said to watch out for in there is the concept of a benefit. And in here, there's a great concept called the benefits register. So there's a whole, the way many of you might understand risk, we identify the risks, we document them, we manage them, we mitigate them, we put owners and due dates against them. The benefit register is a very similar concept. We identify the benefit. We tag it to the component project. We actually then say, how will we measure this benefit? When will we measure it? Who will measure it? How will we measure it? Everything about the benefit, the date it will be delivered. So we track the benefit. And some of our customers now would have taken that concept, even that module as a standalone module, and applied it to their projects. Because very often we know some projects, they deliver a deliverable, produce a deliverable, but they've lost sight of the benefit somewhere along the way. So many companies now, as a result of going on a program management course, they say, actually, we should be implementing this on our projects. We need to get better at tracking benefit, because sometimes these transformation projects or programs don't deliver the benefit that they set out to achieve. So as the first component delivers, we measure its benefit. And then if it delivered the benefit it promised, well, then that's great. But if it does not deliver the benefit it promised, well, how do we recalibrate now the rest of the components, saying, well, if all those don't deliver as well, does this program really still have a business case? So there's a lot of great thinking in that module. Everything about, you know, benefit initiation, benefit, delivery, benefit transition, the go live, but also benefit sustainment. How do we make sure the processes in the company, etc., ensure that we get that benefit over a long period, that we don't just get this initial bounce and suddenly it falls back to some steady state that's not what we wanted in the first place. So concepts like benefit transition, benefit sustainment are very powerful. Stakeholder management. Many of us, I suppose, a lot of projects in companies fail because of poor stakeholder management. A lot of us would be very good at scoping, scheduling, budgeting, etc. But when it comes to managing politics and stakeholders, we have work to do. A lot of projects in companies fail not because of the scope or the budget, they fail because of poor stakeholder engagement and management. And this is as you go further up the chain with a program that could change ways of working in a company, etc., you're going to meet more resistance. You could be automating something, people could be made redundant, you could be transforming something, and that could impact a lot of people. So you got to really get strong at stakeholder management and change management and politics and influencing and negotiation and all these good stuff. That's covered in the course. The last module then is, the fourth module is a module on governance. What levels of decision making, who can make decisions at what level, what gets escalated to your steering group, etc., etc. The last module then is the program life cycle. And the idea in the life cycle here now is very similar to project management. You'll have program, scope management, schedule management, cost management, quality, all the usual stuff. But you'll have additional ideas in there about financial frameworks. Where's the money coming from? Because in a program, you might have multiple funding streams. You might have to deal with, funding coming at different times, specific constraints on funding, maybe coming from governments, etc. And also reporting that gets attached to the funding. What does that reporting look like? So there's a whole program communication, program dashboarding, program procurement management, etc. So that covers off the life cycle. So it's quite a comprehensive course. But the main thing we're trying to, I suppose, get to with all of these is that programs really are moving you up the value chain, where you're talking maybe to a senior manager, understanding their strategic objective, and then you designing a program of work. Because in your project, you might be saying, oh, my boss or my senior manager is my sponsor. In a program, your boss again or senior manager might be your sponsor, but you yourself as program manager will be sponsor of the component projects within your program. So again, there's a big step up in terms of responsibility, and proving charters, and you deciding what gets in and out of your program. And you're not just becoming a catch-all. You're very clear idea of what you're trying to deliver. So if we go forward from here, this is a diagram from the standard for program management. And it's just to get you clear on what's happening here. The main steps, they have what they call program definition, program delivery, and program closure. So it's a bit like within definition, then they call it formulation and planning. Formulation I've put in here, that's very like project initiation. And in here, we're going to look at things like, chartering. We're going to look at things like stakeholder identification. But the other things in there are concepts like the financial framework. Where's the money coming from? What funding sources have we got? And then in planning, you get into all sorts of scope, schedule, cost, quality, procurement, risk, change management, and all the usual stuff. But you also have things to consider like the governance, the information management, and some additional modules. But also you might be delving further into quality here, because now as you have a program, you have multiple projects beneath you, you might be setting the quality standard for the projects within your program. You might actually be deciding to set up the procurement for the whole program. You might set up the approved vendors. So then that your project managers can just draw down from that framework and they don't have to go through a big procurement process each. So again, you might be trying to understand the procurement strategy, the framework, etc., etc. The components is what the PMI called the project. So these components are being authorized, and that's like standard project initiation and planning. And you're monitoring and oversighting those. And as each project is starting to deliver, they're delivering some sort of benefit. And you might have some sort of integration of those benefits because there might be other work needed to glue these together. So you're constantly authorizing new components and measuring the benefits. So it's a very iterative process, and you're staging them in the terms of the benefit realization and the roadmap that you have agreed. So again, this is a very useful diagram to get a feel for what program management is all about. What does a 3-day course look like in this? And again, there's program management essentials, which is without the certification, or there is the full PgMP certification course. So day one of this very much talks about program management and introduction, get all understanding of what it's all about, but then gets second half of day one into strategy. In day two, it talks all about initiation and some planning modules, and then gets into more planning and governance, communication, risk, all the usual stuff we just spoke about. And then on day three, we really get into program execution, the idea of benefit delivery, benefit transition, benefit sustainment. But there's some great ideas in there in terms of how to measure benefit. And that's what some of us struggle with. We struggle with say, actually, is that benefit intangible or is it tangible? Is it financial? Is it non-financial? And there could be lots of things in here of different benefit type. And what I mean by that is you might have a tangible financial benefit of, I don't know, increasing production or whatever it may be, or reducing cost or something. But you might also have a patent or something else that's intangible. You don't know the value of it, but it's a benefit we want to get. So by tracking benefit, we can actually make sure it happens. So as I said, there are two different types of, there are two different courses on this. And one is just the standard, and one is actually the fully supported course right up until the day of the exam. What you get, I suppose, really with the exam prep course is you also get the prep, the application form, and I'll talk you through that in a moment, but you get supported. And it's very similar to the PMP certification, really. So why would you want it? Well, many people have it. Over 1 million people probably have the PMP. So more and more people that even I've met 5-10 years ago coming back around now, and they're saying, I've moved on, I've moved up the value chain. I want to do the program manager. I've also met a number of people. I met a lady on a course yesterday. She said, I've done my PMP with you. I've done my PgMP with you. I want to do portfolio management. I'm now heading up that department in our business. So again, think about your own career and say, where am I going here? Have I exhausted the value of PMP? Now, do I need to reinvest in myself? Okay. The main thing I would say is that we're seeing PgMP people, because programs are bringing, you're managing bigger stuff. So you're worth more to the company. And again, we're seeing a lot of people getting a lot of, I suppose, return on their investment on this. How do you get it? Now, as I said, it's very similar to the PMP. You fill out an application, you do an exam, you pass the exam, and you get on with life. The thing about the PgMP, and I don't say this lightly, it is a big step up. It is a big step up. And the process is longer. The process is the same, but it's more complicated. So to do the PgMP, you either need the PMP already, you need our 4 years experience. But if you don't have a degree, they'll want you to have up to 7 years program management experience. So the first thing a lot of people I'd advise them to do is go to your whiteboard and kind of draw out your career over the last while and say, when did I do my PMP? Those 3 years can be reused now by tagging on a year. And then have I got the program management experience? And when I did this myself, guys, I had to look back and some things that I had called projects, when I was doing them, look back and I said, actually, they were programs, right? They were programs, but I just managed them with project management tools as best I could. And looking back then, I realized why maybe they weren't as successful as they should have been. So again, if you get to this point, we have a little template that helps you collate your experience. And the thing about it is, it's difficult to write up what we call the application form, because if you do the PMP, you know you can you can you can I suppose write it up in 200 words. The problem with the PgMP is they'll want 500 words per question. So there's a number of questions. They'll say, explain how you maximize the benefit, or explain the governance structure, or explain how you manage senior stakeholders. But these are 500, or explain, the strategic objective of your program. So you can't write it up in project management language. You really need to write that up in program management language. So that takes effort. Now, when you submit your PgMP application, with the PMP, they came back within a week saying you're approved. With the program manager, it takes a whole month. So the timelines, as I said, are longer and more complicated. The process is similar, but it is more difficult to write up that application. It's all online on the PMI website. They have the usual handbook, etc., to help you through the process. And as I said, it's very similar. You do the application, but if you're selected for audit, they'll audit you, etc. But the big thing here, I suppose, in terms of the payment for the PMP was only $555. The payment for the PGMP is $1,000. So you'd want to be serious that you're going to follow this process through and pass the exam. Okay. The one thing people often ask me is, what about the PDUs? The same PDUs cover both certifications. So if you have PMP and you end up with PGMP, you don't need 60 for both. It's the same 60 cover both. Okay, so that's the good news. The exam is split out like this. It's spread across what we call the domains. And again, our simulators are set up the exact same way. So again, you're trying to target, what areas am I weak in, what areas am I strong in? And our simulator will pinpoint very quickly, look, you're struggling here on strategy, go back, talk to Seamus about it, or you're struggling here on benefits management, you've got this thing mixed up, you're mixing up plans or whatever it may be. But big trick with all of these, I suppose, is you got to practice, you got to do the mock exams, and there's no shortcut here. And I often say as well that, if you could have passed the PMP, but the PGMP, unless you've got practice program management in real life, you will find this very, very difficult. Okay, but you will pass it if you put the work in and follow the process we advise to you. What support do we put in place? As I said, we help you with the application process, because what I don't want is someone putting in an application, it comes back a month later saying, no, we don't agree with your descriptions, please resubmit it. And then you lose another month doing it, and another month, and very easily months can go by. So the PMP in general can be a reasonably quick process. The PGMP, I would say, you should set aside, up to, I don't know, 3 to 6 months really to work your way through the process. Just time, could take a few weeks, few hours here and there to do the application, then good few hours in the classroom, and then some hours doing mock exams. Now, I'm not trying to turn you off it, because it's a great certification to get, and it will be well worth the investment. I just want you to come into it with your eyes wide open, right? And a lot of people come on the course to learn about program management. They take away the concepts around benefit, around senior stakeholder management, around, say, program formulation, different concepts, and they go back and they start applying that on emergent programs at work. And then they come back stronger and they go, I'm ready for the exam now, Seamus, I can take this. Okay. So that's my story for today, guys. And I don't know if there's any questions or not. I'll just check here. We will be sending a recording, definitely, and I will send the presentation as well. There's no problem. Is there any questions from anybody on this, or does that kind of give you an initial feel for what it's all about? I'll pass you back to Mariella. Mariella, is there any questions that have come through?
Hey, Seamus, I will give our audience a quick minute to throw in any questions here. I also threw in a link in the chat to learn if to learn about any more info on this topic, they can definitely visit us at velipie.com or click on that link in the chat. And just the same, Seamus said, if you guys miss out on any part of the session, we will be sharing the recording with all of you in an email after the webinar. And it looks like we did actually get a question. How much one-on-one time do you give to students up to their exam?
Well, the thing about it is, the classroom training will actually really help people understand program management. And after leaving that, people will usually go, pretty good feeling for this now, Seamus. I'm in a good place. But it's not about measuring something out. It's about saying, well, is the person willing to help themselves? So if I send a person off to do the 4 hour exam, so the PgMP is 170 questions in 4 hours. If I send a person off and tell them do the mock exam and they come back to me and they got 25% and they spent 1 hour at it, I'll be saying, look, you got to help yourself before I can help you. You got to be mature about this. But if I ever see someone that's making a good effort and they're up at, they've sat down, they've worked their way through it religiously for the 4 hours, they've had a right go, and they got, I don't know, 55%, and the simulator tells them they're weak on strategy. I've no problem having a call with that effort and that person. So it's about a two-way thing, really, very often. The PMA ourselves, very good at helping people, but people got to help themselves. You got to be willing to work on this. And anyone that comes to this seriously, that wants it, I've never heard anyone saying, I didn't get enough time from you, Seamus. That's not going to be in question. It's, will you follow the advice? And I saw one person a while back, he decided he was going to take some mock exams, but he was trying to do them at 11 o'clock at night, and that's too late. Like, your best hours are gone. You're so tired, you can't focus. And he finished at 3 o'clock in the morning with a rubbish score. And I'm saying, like, you're not helping yourself here. Just go back and do it in core hours. I know it's not easy, I know we're all busy, but try and set yourself up for success. You will not be, don't worry about, we'll help you. There's no doubt about that. But you got to be willing to help yourself first. We've a lot of assistance online for you, mock exams. But one good thing I tell everyone as well, the standard for program management is a small book, right? Many of us have bought the PMBOK, and some of you might have never read it. I've had to read it because for my work, every version of it up. But the standard for program management is actually a very small book, and a huge amount of the exam comes from that literature. So when you come on our course, we'll be working with you to say, look, you need to go off and read those 20 pages on that topic, and we're supplementing that, obviously, and explaining it and trying to make sure you really understand it. But often you could flick through some material before our course, because people say, well, but if you practice this at work and you work with us, you will pass this. But it's not a quick win, but it's a good win when you get it. It's one of those ones that will differentiate you from the people around you, definitely. But that's where I would see it. So I will help you. Don't worry about that.
That's fantastic direction. Thank you so much for answering that, Seamus. We had a couple more. Is experience based on project management good enough to, I have to assume, apply to PGMP?
No, no. You need the 4 years of program management as well if you have a degree. But as I said to you, I did my PMP over 20 years ago, and I had my PMP. I had subsequent projects done, I had programs done. And I was trying to say, what 4 years of programs will I do? And it was only as I started to read more about program management, I was saying, actually, yeah, there was so many work streams in that. That was actually a program. So at the time in the company, it was just called a big project. But actually, I was able to revise it into, there was this part, and this part, and I was able to get it reworked into the format and appreciate that it was a program, of work, and I had project managers working for me, etc. We used to only call them team leads or project coordinators. But again, it's about looking at your own history and career and say, actually, yeah, that was a program. Now, how do I write up that for the PMI, to reflect their language? You might have called it a benefits register, but that's what you had. I had a spreadsheet and I had benefits written into it. It's only years later I read, oh, that's the benefits register. So again, don't rule yourself out. Think about what you have done. If you've got project management experience, well, were some of them programs? Were they, programs in reality? Or have you got programs now that you have worked on, but maybe you're calling them projects, or you didn't even realize. So again, we help people clarify that for themselves. But if you have only project management experience, well, then you can't apply for PGMP. But it's a good idea to come on the course to learn about program management so that you can move up the value chain. The big thing I would say that the PGMP would give a lot of people, and people say this to me after as feedback, it gives you a language to talk to senior management, because your senior management talk about benefit, governance, stakeholder management, strategic alignment. If you could get that language, that would allow you to talk to the powers that be. And then they might say, actually, you're good. Yeah, I think we need him on this program or her on this program. So again, we see a lot of people using it to get the language to talk to senior players. So don't be worried about the certification. We'd have a lot of people coming on the course just to get the language, the tools, and techniques. And then subsequently, they might bolt on the certification. So don't rule out the value of the course itself. Very, very useful. Okay.
Excellent, excellent, awesome. Well, just to be mindful of everyone's time, I think we will cut it here. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And thank you, Seamus, for all this
All
fantastic
right.
info.
All right. Take care and have a nice weekend, everybody.
Awesome. Likewise. Thank you all so much for attending, and we'll see you all very soon in the classroom. Bye bye
Take
now.
care. Bye.